Since the turn of the decade, Weekly Shonen Jump has had immense trouble launching new, long-running manga in their physical magazine. From 2020 forward, nearly 30 manga have been cancelled within 10 volumes. The vast majority of them ending in under 5 volumes. I think it's safe to say that anime and manga are experiencing a significant boom in popularity to justify such a cutthroat approach to cycling through series. Magazines want the next big hit, multiples of them simultaneously. But these failures are still staggering and are perhaps reflective of the coming economic state of manga consumption. Perhaps we're in the middle of a bubble that is about to burst. Tokyo Demon Bride story is the latest in Shonen Jump's massacre of manga. The author took elements of everything that's been popular in the magazine over the last 5 years and rolled it into a rom-com slice of life. But it was not enough to survive the bottom of TOC ranking. I don't even think Demon Bride was ever out of the bottom 3, but it makes sense. Everything in this manga was bland as fuck. Jinta and Demon Girl's relationship was never fun, and it seemed very one-sided. The mangaka showed desperation early on, and made this series into a harem before the first volume ended. By the second volume, even more girls are introduced, many of whom I couldn't tell you their names. The action in each chapter plays third fiddle to the piss-poor comedy and even worse emotional building blocks that are laid out for the reader to sort through. Do these girls want Jinta or not? And if they don't, why are they getting as much screen time as they are? Why don't we focus on the women who will actually contribute to the main plot? The character design didn't do anything to set them apart, aside from Kiroru, who you can tell is Tadaichi Nakama's favorite character. Yeah, mine too. The girls are bland. The paneling is very standard. I don't know what about the one-shot stood out to make the Jump editors think that this could be a successful manga, let alone last 4 whole volumes. Let me elaborate a little bit more. There are plenty of chapters where you'll see blank backgrounds. There's nothing wrong with doing them if you can establish the environment that your characters are currently in well enough. If you can show me exactly who is supposed to be in this scene, what this scene is supposed to lead to, if it's morning or night, if they're indoors or outdoors, how close or far these characters are when they're talking with one another. If you can establish that early on in a scene, then you don't have to keep on showing elements of the background. Now you can zoom in on the characters' faces and have a lot of text take up all of the empty space, but it still flows. It doesn't look lazy. However, with Demon Bride, the mangaka didn't know how to do that. I never knew where the characters were. I didn't understand the world that they live in. It had no real vibrancy to it. I don't really know who is in this scene. You didn't establish what tonality this chapter is going to have. Yeah, there were shocking body horror moments in this manga, but I felt like they all took place in an alleyway. I just didn't really care for many of them. And it's not just that the mangaka is bad at setting up environments, they also cannot differentiate their characters. Same face syndrome is a problem that I have with a lot of manga, and some people don't care. Some people don't mind same face. If you're able to establish the personality of this character, I can get away with them having similar hairstyles, being a similar height, or having the same face as other characters of the same gender. In Tokyo Demon Bride, we don't really know anyone's personality, and it's never built upon. For a manga that was always riding at the bottom, you would think that, the mangaka, knowing this is a harem, he's going to start pushing certain girls forward, adding certain tropes to these girls that will actually make an audience want to connect with them. Maybe designing a girl who looks noticeably different from the other characters. Kuroru, again, is the only character in this manga who has any real thought behind their character design, and she never really gets utilized much. You don't see other frog-like characters. You don't see other characters that have animalistic traits, aside from that one tiger chick, but it wasn't really it wasn't a thing. It didn't work for me. Chapter 15 showed a low when it came to the art style. The framing and panel layout was pure laziness. The mangaka used the same technique 3 times in one chapter, just a few pages apart from one another, and there was very little variation. This just reads like someone who doesn't know what they're doing, or maybe there's a lot of editor interference because there's no way you have time to work out this story or draw this chapter, and you're literally reusing the same frames. Tadaichi Nakama understands the rules of manga, and he even has a firmer grasp on ensemble writing than, say, Masamitsu Nigatsu or Kei Urana, his peers over at Shonen Magazine. But his lack of dynamic art style, it's not able to make up for the lackluster quality of his ensemble cast. As mentioned, Kuroru is the only character that I liked in this entire manga, and I think she would have been a better fit for the romantic lead if Manaka was relegated to the best friend role. That could have helped this manga go on a bit longer, but because Nakama decided to focus on Manaka being the lead, choosing Kuroru to be the bitch slash damsel in distress of the group sullied the only character that I cared about. But even Manaka is mishandled badly. She often impacts battles at the very end when she one-shot KOs the enemy, thus negating the efforts of not only the villain of that week, but the supporting characters who were fighting in her stead. Almost all chapters ended with Manaka fawning over Jinta doing the bare minimum or saying some power of family or friendship bullshit. I will say I'm glad that there was no fan service in this manga, instead relying on the personalities of the chicks to propel the story. I think Tokyo Demon Bride story was authored by an older mangaka who put this series out under the pen name Tadaichi Nakama. It's just a feeling that I have. This manga doesn't read like a young person writing to a young audience. It felt very, hello fellow kids, with its approach, and it wasn't a terrible run, it was just boring. The ending is nothing that I'll remember, and Kiroru will be the only character missed from yet another Shueisha could have been. If you like short, cute reads with a bunch of inoffensive generic girls, yeah, give this manga a shot. Reminded me of a lesser Yuagaki. 3 out of 10.